In a world that constantly demands more of us, the art of manipulation has evolved into a powerful and dangerous force that can control minds, sway decisions, and tear apart relationships. Dark psychology, a term that has recently gained traction, refers to the use of psychological principles for manipulative and harmful purposes. Whether it's in the media, business, politics, or even our personal lives, dark psychology tactics are woven into the fabric of our daily interactions. Have you ever had that nagging feeling that something was off, but couldn't quite pinpoint it? Or perhaps you found yourself agreeing to something you didn't want to, only to realize later that you were manipulated? That is dark psychology at work. This video is designed to help you understand these tactics, recognize them when they occur, and most importantly, defend yourself against them. You'll discover how to spot the subtle signs of manipulation, learn the psychological tricks used by those who prey on our minds, and develop the mental strength to protect yourself from being controlled. But first, let's take a closer look at what dark psychology is and why it's more dangerous than you think. Section 1: Understanding Dark Psychology. Dark psychology is the study of psychological tactics used to manipulate, deceive, and control others for personal gain. It can be used in subtle, often unnoticed ways, and it doesn't just apply to obvious manipulations like those used by criminals. It's found in the smallest interactions, from casual conversations to major political strategies. At its core, dark psychology involves understanding human behavior to exploit vulnerabilities, often without the target's awareness. The manipulator aims to influence the victim's thoughts, emotions, and actions, typically for selfish reasons. Dark psychology isn't inherently malicious, it's simply a tool used by people, groups, and organizations to get what they want, often at the expense of others. Key elements of dark psychology. Manipulation. The most common tactic in dark psychology, manipulation involves changing someone's perception of reality to serve the manipulator's agenda. This is done without the victim's knowledge, often making them believe that their actions or decisions were made of their own free will. Deception. Deception is the act of misrepresenting facts or lying in a way that distorts the victim's reality. This could involve false information, creating doubt, or withholding important details to mislead someone into making decisions that benefit the manipulator. Persuasion. While persuasion can be a positive force, dark psychology uses it as a means to influence others in a self-serving way. A manipulative persuader doesn't care about the recipient's needs or desires. They only want to win, control, or achieve something for their personal benefit. Coercion. Coercion is the use of force or threats to make someone do something against their will. It's a more aggressive tactic than manipulation, often leading to fear or compliance from the victim. Coercion can be physical, emotional, or psychological, and it is one of the most destructive aspects of dark psychology. Dark psychology is not just the realm of con artists or politicians. It's woven into the fabric of our daily lives. From the subtle manipulations of advertising to the gaslighting that can occur in relationships, dark psychology has far-reaching implications. While it's often unseen, its effects can be devastating, leaving us questioning our perceptions, decisions, and even our sense of self. The dark side of persuasion and influence. In a society driven by media, advertising, and political campaigns, persuasion is everywhere. But what happens when persuasion goes too far? When persuasion is used not to inform but to manipulate? That's where dark psychology comes into play. It's the dark undercurrent that guides people into making decisions that don't serve their best interests. The ability to influence and persuade can be a powerful tool, when used ethically. But when twisted, it can become dangerous. People don't always recognize when they are being manipulated because these tactics are designed to operate just below the surface. Often, the victim is left feeling confused, guilty, or unsure of their own thoughts and feelings. The ethics of dark psychology. It's important to note that dark psychology is not inherently evil. It's a tool, just like any other psychological concept. It's the intent and context that make it dangerous. When used for self-serving or malicious purposes, dark psychology becomes toxic, leading to broken relationships, manipulated individuals, and a society where truth and reality become subjective. Understanding dark psychology is the first step toward defending against it. By becoming aware of how these tactics work, we empower ourselves to recognize manipulation and deception in all its forms. With this understanding, we're now equipped to dive deeper into specific dark psychology tactics. Recognizing these techniques in action is the next step toward protecting ourselves. Let's begin exploring the most common manipulative tactics used today. Section 2: Recognizing Dark Psychology Tactics. Dark psychology is a subtle force, often operating just beneath the surface of our everyday interactions. The manipulative tactics used can be difficult to spot, especially when they're employed by individuals who are skilled at using psychological manipulation to control others. But knowing what to look for can make all the difference in protecting yourself. In this section, we'll explore the most common dark psychology tactics and teach you how to recognize them before they can take hold. Tactic 1: Gaslighting. What is gaslighting? Gaslighting is a form of psychological manipulation that seeks to make someone doubt their own perception of reality. The term gaslighting comes from a 1938 play, Gaslight, where a husband manipulates his wife into thinking she is losing her mind by subtly dimming the gas lights and then denying that the lights were dimmed. Over time, the wife begins to question her own sanity. In a modern context, gaslighting involves making the victim question their thoughts, feelings, and memories, often by denying events, minimizing experiences, or offering counternarratives that distort the truth. The manipulator does this consistently over time, leading the victim to second-guess themselves and rely on the manipulator's version of reality. How to spot gaslighting. Denial of events. The manipulator may deny things they've said or done, even if you have clear evidence to the contrary. Minimizing your experience. They might belittle your feelings or experiences, making you feel as if your emotional responses are overblown or inappropriate. Shifting blame. When confronted, the manipulator may shift the blame onto you, making you feel responsible for things you didn't do. Constant confusion. Gaslighting often leads to confusion, self-doubt, and emotional distress, as the victim's sense of reality is undermined. Examples of gaslighting. A partner denying that they said something hurtful, even when you clearly remember it. A manager insisting that an incident at work didn't happen, despite multiple witnesses. A friend dismissing your feelings, making you feel like you're overreacting to a situation. Tactic 2: Love bombing. What is love bombing? Love bombing is a tactic used by manipulators, often in romantic relationships, where they overwhelm the target with excessive attention, affection, gifts, and praise to gain control over them. This sudden and intense bombardment of love and attention creates a false sense of security and dependency on the manipulator. While love bombing can initially feel flattering, it is often used as a means of manipulation. Once the target is emotionally invested, the love bomber will typically withdraw the affection or become controlling, creating an emotional imbalance in the relationship. How to spot love bombing. Excessive attention. The manipulator showers you with attention, affection, and praise from the beginning, often in ways that feel overwhelming or disproportionate. Quick commitment. They push for a rapid commitment, such as an intense emotional declaration or talking about future plans too soon. Unrealistic expectations. They may expect you to reciprocate the intensity of their feelings immediately, putting pressure on you to keep up. Cycle of withdrawal. After gaining your emotional investment, they may suddenly withdraw or behave unpredictably to keep you anxious and dependent on their approval. Examples of love bombing. A new partner calling you constantly, sending multiple texts and gifts, and planning your future together after just a few weeks. A colleague constantly complimenting you and offering to help with everything, but pulling away after you've come to rely on them. A friend pushing you to make quick, significant commitments or promises that feel rushed and uncomfortable. Tactic 3: The foot in the door technique. What is the foot in the door technique? The foot-in-the-door technique is a subtle manipulation strategy where the manipulator starts by making a small, seemingly harmless request to gain compliance. Once the target agrees to the small request, they are then more likely to agree to a larger request, even if it's something they would have initially refused. This tactic works on the principle of consistency. Once a person commits to something, they are more likely to continue committing to similar actions, even if it goes against their best interest. The manipulator uses this principle to gradually escalate their demands. How to spot the foot-in-the-door technique. Small initial requests. The manipulator starts by asking for something small that is hard to refuse. Escalation. Once you agree to the first request, they follow up with progressively larger requests, often framing them as logical next steps. Pressure to continue. After accepting the smaller request, you may feel a sense of obligation or guilt to continue agreeing, even if the new requests are unreasonable. Examples of the foot-in-the-door technique. A charity worker asks for a small donation, and once you agree, they ask for a larger one later. A colleague asks for your help with a small task, and once you agree, they progressively ask you to take on more work. Tactic 4. Triangulation. What is triangulation? Triangulation is a tactic used in relationships to manipulate someone by involving a third party. Instead of addressing a problem directly, the manipulator brings another person into the equation to create conflict, confusion, and emotional turmoil. The manipulator uses the third party to validate their narrative or manipulate the victim's emotions. Triangulation is often used in abusive relationships, whether in personal relationships or workplace environments, to maintain control over one or more people involved. How to spot triangulation. Involving third parties, the manipulator might use other people to reinforce their viewpoint or make the victim feel isolated. Spreading rumors. The manipulator may talk to others about the victim to create doubt or insecurity. Using gossip, they might tell the victim what others are supposedly saying about them, fueling jealousy or distrust. Examples of triangulation. A partner discussing their issues with another person and using their opinions to make you feel inadequate or guilty. A manager involving another colleague in a workplace dispute to make you feel unsupported or outnumbered. Recognizing dark psychology tactics is the first line of defense against psychological manipulation. Once you are aware of the tactics commonly used, gaslighting, love bombing, foot in the door, and triangulation, you can take proactive steps to protect yourself. But recognizing these tactics is only the beginning. The next section will focus on how to defend against these manipulative tactics effectively. Section 4. Psychological Techniques for Defense. Now that we've covered the most common dark psychology tactics and how to recognize them, it's time to focus on defense strategies. Understanding how to protect yourself from these manipulative tactics is essential to maintaining emotional and mental well-being. The good news is that there are several psychological techniques you can use to guard against dark psychology. By strengthening your emotional resilience, improving your critical thinking skills, and setting healthy boundaries, you can safeguard yourself from those who seek to manipulate you. Defensive Strategy 1. Emotional Awareness. Why emotional awareness matters. Emotions are powerful, they can cloud our judgment, lead us to make decisions we regret, and make us more vulnerable to manipulation. Emotional awareness is the ability to recognize, understand, and manage your emotions in a way that supports your well-being. It allows you to stay grounded and respond to manipulation with clarity rather than reacting impulsively or defensively. When it comes to dark psychology tactics, manipulators prey on emotional vulnerability. They may exploit feelings of insecurity, guilt, or fear to control you. By being emotionally aware, you can recognize when your emotions are being influenced and take steps to protect your inner balance. How to develop emotional awareness. Practice mindfulness. Mindfulness involves being present and fully engaged in the moment without judgment. By practicing mindfulness, you can better notice how you feel in certain situations and whether those feelings are being influenced by someone else. Label your emotions. When you're in a tense or manipulative situation, pause and identify your emotions. Are you feeling anxious, angry, confused, or guilty? Labeling your emotions helps you understand them and creates a buffer between the manipulation and your response. Check your emotional reactions. If you're reacting emotionally to something someone says or does, take a moment to step back and ask yourself why. Is this reaction proportional to the situation, or could it be a result of manipulation? Examples of emotional awareness in action. In a heated conversation, you notice that you're feeling guilty, even though you didn't do anything wrong. By recognizing this feeling, you can ask yourself whether it's a genuine emotion or whether you're being manipulated. When someone tries to rush you into a decision, you pause and check in with your emotions. Are you feeling pressured or anxious? Recognizing these emotions gives you the clarity to slow down and make decisions with your best interest in mind. Defensive strategy 2: critical thinking and rationality. The power of rational thinking. Critical thinking is one of the most effective defenses against manipulation. It involves analyzing information objectively, questioning assumptions, and considering different perspectives before making decisions. By cultivating critical thinking, you can resist manipulation by seeing through the tactics used by those attempting to control you. Manipulators rely on emotional responses and cognitive shortcuts to push you into decisions. They might use false narratives or exaggerated claims to influence your actions. By engaging your rational mind, you can disrupt these tactics and maintain control over your decisions. How to apply critical thinking. Question assumptions. Don't accept things at face value. When someone presents you with information, especially if it feels manipulative, ask yourself, is this true, and what is their motive for telling me this? Analyze the evidence. Before reacting to a situation, take time to assess the evidence. What facts do you have? Are the claims being made supported by evidence, or are they based on manipulation or emotion? Consider alternative perspectives. A manipulator often presents only one version of reality. To protect yourself, consider other viewpoints. If someone is trying to make you feel guilty or responsible for something, ask yourself, what could another person in this situation think? Examples of critical thinking in action. A friend tells you that everyone else is saying you made a mistake, but you take a moment to step back, think about the situation logically, and realize that the friend might be manipulating you into feeling guilty. A manager pushes for a quick decision on a project. Instead of rushing, you ask for more time to gather information and consult with colleagues, resisting the urge to be coerced into a snap decision. Defensive strategy 3: setting boundaries. The importance of boundaries. Setting healthy boundaries is essential in protecting yourself from manipulation. Boundaries define what is acceptable and unacceptable in your interactions with others. When you establish clear boundaries, you communicate your needs, protect your emotional space, and make it harder for manipulators to control you. People who engage in dark psychology often cross boundaries in order to gain control. They may pressure you to do things you're not comfortable with or make you feel guilty for asserting your needs. By establishing and enforcing boundaries, you make it clear that you won't tolerate manipulative behavior. How to set boundaries. Know your limits. Reflect on what you're comfortable with in relationships, work situations, and social interactions. Are there certain behaviors you find unacceptable? Set limits based on these values. Communicate clearly. When someone crosses your boundaries, assertively and calmly communicate your limits. For example, you can say, "I'm not comfortable with that request," or "That's not something I'm willing to do." Stand firm. Manipulators may try to push or test your boundaries, but it's crucial to remain consistent. If you say no, stick to it. Weak or inconsistent boundaries create opportunities for manipulation. Examples of boundary setting in action. A colleague asks for help with a project outside of your responsibilities. You calmly explain that while you're happy to help occasionally, you need to prioritize your own tasks and won't be available this time. In a friendship, someone constantly demands your time and energy. You express your need for personal space and let them know you will only be available at certain times. Defensive strategy 4, the power of no. Why saying no is empowering. One of the most powerful tools for defending against dark psychology is learning to say no. Many manipulators rely on your reluctance to refuse them. They may pressure you, make you feel guilty, or attempt to wear down your resistance until you give in. By saying no firmly and confidently, you assert your independence and maintain control over your decisions. How to say no assertively. Be direct. When you don't want to do something, say no directly. Avoid over-explaining or justifying your decision. A simple, firm no is often the most effective. Stay calm. Manipulators may try to provoke an emotional response in order to get you to change your mind. Stay calm and don't get defensive. A calm demeanor helps to reinforce your decision. Repeat if necessary. If the manipulator continues to push, repeat your no and remain consistent. You don't have to offer excuses or apologies. Examples of saying no. A friend asks for a favor that you can't fulfill. Instead of agreeing out of guilt, you simply say, "I'm unable to do that right now. Thank you for understanding." A coworker pressures you to take on extra work during your personal time. You respond, "I'm not available for that. I have other commitments that I need to prioritize." By developing emotional awareness, applying critical thinking, setting boundaries, and confidently saying no, you can significantly reduce your vulnerability to dark psychology tactics. These psychological defenses not only protect you from manipulation, but they also empower you to take control of your decisions and preserve your mental and emotional well-being. In a world filled with constant influence, whether from personal relationships, the media, or the workplace, understanding dark psychology and how to defend against its tactics is crucial. Manipulators are everywhere, and while their methods can be subtle and even sophisticated, the tools and strategies we've discussed in this video provide a powerful defense against being controlled or deceived. Recognizing dark psychology tactics like gaslighting, love bombing, the foot-in-the-door technique, and triangulation is the first step. But simply knowing about these tactics is not enough. It's the psychological techniques we discussed, emotional awareness, critical thinking, boundary setting, and the power of saying no, that form the real defense. These tools empower you to take control of your decisions, protect your emotional well-being, and avoid falling prey to manipulation. Remember, dark psychology is a tool, and like any tool, it can be used for good or ill. When used with malicious intent, it becomes dangerous. But when you arm yourself with knowledge, strengthen your psychological resilience, and create healthy boundaries, you can turn these tactics against the manipulator. As we conclude, here are some key takeaways to help you continue building your defense. Knowledge is power. By learning to recognize dark psychology tactics, you are one step ahead of those who would manipulate you. Stay emotionally aware. Developing emotional intelligence will help you stay grounded and avoid being swept away by manipulative behaviors. Set boundaries. Healthy boundaries are essential for protecting your time, energy, and emotions from being exploited. Trust yourself. Your instincts are powerful. When something feels off, trust that feeling and take steps to protect yourself. Educate and empower others. The more people who understand these tactics and defenses, the stronger our collective protection will be against dark psychology. Take the lessons you've learned here and put them into practice. Don't just protect yourself, share this knowledge with others. Teach those around you how to spot dark psychology tactics and defend themselves. The more aware we are as individuals and communities, the harder it becomes for manipulators to succeed. Empower yourself and those you love, and together, we can create a more informed, resilient society. Thank you for joining me on this journey to understand and defend against dark psychology. Remember, the best defense is a well-informed mind, a strong sense of self, and the courage to say no when necessary. Stay vigilant, stay empowered, and take control of your life.